Welcome everyone to today's podcast. Now, I have known this beautiful lady for it seems like a lifetime, and it probably has been just about. I met her many years ago through one of my clients, and not only is she a wonderful client, but she's also a really good friend. And I've been wanting her to come onto the podcast for so long, and finally she has agreed. So let me introduce you to today's guest. Sharyn Buhagiar is the Chief People Officer at Revesby Workers Club Limited. Now, if you are from Sydney, you know that this is a massive club that is connected to our external shops, also cancer clinics, medical centres. It is very big, plus lots of child entertainment. And it's close to the railway line. So, with over 25 years in hospitality, she joined the club as a staff development officer way back in 2007. She advanced to executive manager in 2020 and now leads the people and culture team in shaping the club's vision, values, and culture at a strategic level. A passionate advocate for education and human rights, Sharyn serves on the board of Biyani House, Revesby Women's Shelter, where she champions support for education, prevention, and victims of domestic violence. Now, you will hear, listeners, that perhaps Sharyn and I will go into our hyperdrive of speak because we do this. We've known each other for so long. I think we even end each other's sentences. But it's lovely having you on, and welcome, Sharyn.
Thank you, Michelle. Yes, it's taken a little bit of convincing, but I am here.
She's here. And we're going to talk about both your career as well as the connection to Biyani House, because, we're going to talk about the connection with community, not only your own personal involvement, but that's certainly through Revesby Workers. But your career in the hospitality industry, if we can start there, because we've always seen, well, people perceive that hospitality is just a short gap measure in some time in their life. However, as we both know, we can create amazing careers for it, and there are so many opportunities. So let me ask first, since your career in people and culture has spanned many years, can you take us through your professional journey and what really first drew you to going to human resources and people and culture?
Wow, loaded questions, aren't they? And they're all going to show my age, but that's okay. I actually fell in love with hospitality through, I think a lot of people did, through McDonald's. So
Oh, right.
I worked at McDonald's, the local one actually at Revesby. I'm very aligned with Revesby, as you'll see through my career. Went to school, worked my way up and went to management there and just loved it. Had the choice of where am I going to go with this? Should I stay or should I look at branching out? And I was fortunate enough to land a role at a five-star, the Westin Sydney Deluxe Hotel, and fell in love with hotels. So it's always been hospitality. Worked my way up there. In the banqueting area, I kind of took on a management role, but also did the recruitment and the training. There was no positions at the hotel at the time in HR. And I was at home one day at Revesby, because I also grew up at Revesby, and the staff development officer role at Revesby Workers Club, where I'd spent some of my younger years having a few drinks here and partying, came up, and the day had closed, so I rang, couldn't get through, kept ringing, and just by a stroke of luck, Louise Saunders said, yeah, okay, we'll meet you. And somehow I windled my way in and got the role, and it's the best decision I've ever made. Well, I hope they all think that.
It wasn't just somehow. You have an amazing career and so much to offer, and you continue to offer. But it's really interesting, as you said, your path starts there at Macca's. It's fast, it's quick, it's just, it's delivering food within a really tight time frame. Then going to the Western, where it's this hotel of luxury and connection, and slowing it down to a pace that people, can feel that, oh, they've made the right choice. And then here you are at Revesby and really developing. And, we've both worked with each other for so long, seeing Revesby go from this one form of a typical club, quite a while ago, into this massive expansion and just the interior. So listeners, if you haven't been to Revesby, or it's been for quite some time, pop in and have a look. I mean, the cafe area, the seating area, everything is just done at an absolute beautiful level. But we can have lovely environments, but it's the people that count. And that's, Sharon, where your skill comes in, is getting the right people in the right roles and developing them. And I've seen you do that time and time again. You just give so much to individuals and the teams, which shows them that they have this potential. So there you are, you start your career. Um, we talk a lot about mentors, and I know you're a mentor to many there at Revesby and also outside, across the club industry, because so many people know you and you're so willing to share your guidance. Have you had had mentors or perhaps people that have really stood out and helped you along the way of your journey and shaped your leadership style, and also your approach to people and culture?
Absolutely. In the interest of time, I won't be able to list everyone. I've been very fortunate. I have a mentorship, I think, is also just in the right time in your career. If you find those people, and the most important thing for me is, will they challenge you and will they support you? And will they be there even in it's really easy to be there for someone in their good times, but when life's a bit challenging. So I've been very fortunate. I'm speaking to one of them right now, who introduced me to women in the workforce events and really helped pave the way there. So that's obviously why I'm very passionate about helping all of our staff, but especially some of our women that need to build their confidence as well. I was very lucky to work for a lovely gentleman who I also know Scott Spicer. I obviously like the name because two mentors are the name Scott. So my current CEO, I think if anyone's fortunate enough to work for not a manager but a leader, they take a natural mentor role, because they have although I do find him a little annoying at times, where he can just sign you up for things or say, you can do this. And at the time you think, really? But that's people having faith in you and pushing you and making sure that they're challenging you in the right ways. So I've been really fortunate, and really this industry, I can't list everyone. I've got managers at other clubs that help us, but just my own executive team can knock on their door. I'm having a hard day. Can you help me? Or I need a debrief. And it just helps you not carry the weight when something's, challenging you. Yes. So I've been quite fortunate in that space. I do love the mentorship. Obviously, I'm in PNC, and we try and adopt that through our training as well here, because, if people don't believe that they just need that little bit of extra help, that little bit of someone else can see something. And there's so many good people, and not everyone has that confidence. And when somebody says something to a staff member that maybe you could look at this, and encourages them maybe to go for a role or to try something different or sign up for training. And it's nice to see how far they can go.
Yes, it is. It is, because, as you said, Scott Bennett's is your CEO there, and he does, gives you tasks, as you said, projects. And you think, oh my goodness, am I able to do this? Do I have the time? But he's seeing that within you, and that's the same as you and your team there in PNC, is seeing that potential in those that are on the front line or stepping up into those leadership roles. Because as we know, and you've been there yourself, going from frontline to leadership doesn't always come easy. We may have the skill set, but do we know how to manage those people that come from all walks of life and have got all different intentions about what their vision is as well, and getting them to be part of the program? So mentors are important, and I love how that you keep being challenged, and therefore, being reached out. It doesn't even have to be that formal setting of mentor, does it, Sharon?
No.
Yeah.
For me, it's worked better in a casual setting,
yes,
where it's just that conversation and not surrounding your people with yes people, because anybody can say, yeah, you're right, or pretend to listen. It's the listening and asking a few more questions, making sure that they understand what you're talking about, and then sometimes saying, yeah, but do you think this? Or maybe you're upset, but have you gone back to that person? It can be sometimes the most basic thing, but I'm quite passionate, and sometimes you just need to stop and take a breath. And I've usually associated myself with people that may be a little bit calmer than me, and it really helps. Really helps.
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say I would just say you can get you can get very passionate, very excited
Very
about things,
excited.
and that's what we need. You know, people can't be all just boring and calm all the time. That's not us at all. From your perspective, how has the recruitment landscape changed over the past decade? You know, particularly in hospitality, we've been through those dark changes 5 years ago and challenges. We're coming back out of it, certainly well out of it. How do you see that recruitment landscape changing and going forward in the future?
Well, obviously, the way we communicate with everyone, so much more social media,
Mm,
that's one of the platforms. One of the challenges is also with how much more scams and emails and phone calls, it's actually just even hard to get in contact with people in a timely
wow,
fashion.
right.
We'll be calling and then people just don't necessarily realize that it's for a job.
Right.
So that sometimes that's a little bit challenging as well. I think there's people are looking for a little bit of it, it's a little bit different now.
Mm,
So people are wanting to have that conversation with you. They want to let you know what they're wanting. You need to have that straight away. What are we looking for as well? Because
mm,
sometimes you can hire people on the basis of what they think you want or
yes.
what they
Yeah.
want to hear.
Mm,
So that's the main thing that we concentrate on when we're looking at recruitment,
mm.
and also just really getting out of what they're wanting, because the days are gone where people are applying for and just give me all the hours that you
Yes.
can
Yes.
possibly give us.
Mm.
Oh, if 20 hours is enough for somebody, it's enough for them. We'll then need to hire two people for a role if we've got like a full-time position. So
Yes.
that flexibility, I think,
Mm.
is been really critical for us.
Mm. So do you find that flexibility, and that you've made a really good point there, because sometimes we may be looking for a full-time person, but we've got two really great people that can do 20 hours, and that's either that's their full capacity load that they can, or that's all they choose to want to do. So it's seeing that, isn't it, Sharyn, and going, okay, well, we can get two people here that, okay, it's changing your way of thinking, isn't it?
It, it really is. Like in the business, we try and challenge ourselves. We will have a conversation. Oh, when I got a job, this is what, and I know I used to do the same thing. I'll pick up any shifts. I'll stay back. That was my driver.
Mm,
I think people today are going, well, you know what? I've kind of got what I need. I'd rather go to the family barbecue or
yes.
go out. And
Mm,
there's nothing wrong with that, as long as we've tried to establish a good culture of trust and respect.
mm,
So if we can talk to staff and go, so what are you needing? On occasion, we need to say, we understand it is your right to refuse.
mm.
In saying that, we have a really busy weekend and the other staff are showing, could we come to a compromise? It
Yes.
doesn't always work. We're not going to say we're perfect, but a
Mm,
lot of the time our staff are here, not just, it's not for me, it's for our staff as well.
yes.
So by being flexible and understanding what they're needing, we try not to recruit until we've spoken, we've put out comms to staff saying, look, we are struggling with the roster, but we've heard some people want some hours before we recruit.
Mm,
Let us know. If these are not the hours you're wanting, we are going to recruit. And it puts us in a pretty good position with them, because people will call and say, look, I do need this. Can I look at training in another
mm.
area, etc. So I think it comes down to the culture, but that's always going to be my my space.
Yes, yeah. And it's really interesting what you just said there, Sharon, because I know, you know, it's you telling them, because we hear from frontline people, oh, the recruiting, our hours are going to be cut, and then don't they know I need more hours? And they say, well, you know what, they can't read your mind, can they? And then there's also those that just don't know who to approach, or just don't feel confident to approach. So I love that idea of yours, is going out and saying to them, hey, we're going to start recruiting because these are the hours we need filled. Let us know if you can do them, because people's journeys change, don't they? You know, the children now may be at school, they may have before or after school care if they're in that situation. It may be holidays during university. They may have, different semesters to what they had last term, and all sorts of things happen in life. And we just assume they're the same when they joined us as what they are years and years and years later. So I love that approach. The other thing too I want to just for you to share on is your values there at Revesby. Now, I know when I'm doing my training with leadership teams, I always mention how Revesby during COVID rewrote their values. I mean, for many many businesses, they have values, but you truly wrote them in with a way that connects them both to when you are having to performance manage a team member, as well as provide them that opportunity to say to them, wow, you've done a great job because you tie them beautifully with your values. Can you share a little bit about that, Sharyn, please, and that journey?
So in COVID, we wanted to use the time. Scott and the board were incredible and actually
Mm,
gave the staff, we had a paid scheme, and the managers were able to come in for a few days because obviously we wanted to stay connected and we want to stay
mm,
connected with the staff. And one of the projects was to have a look at our vision and values. Now, we wanted to put it out to staff, and we did do that. We had a few non-negotiables.
mm,
One, never forget where we came from.
mm,
If people forget where you come from, you don't know where you're going. That's our opinion. So
mm,
we put, true to our traditions. We wanted the value set to be very basic and not stupid, but just what is the call that people want? And we always get that. Why do you stay? Yeah, we got beautiful everything here. We provide nice food, but usually it's the people. So we
yes.
came up with simple, adaptable, teamwork, support, and strength.
Mm,
Because when you put them all together, and you add respect with that, it makes it work, and it makes easy conversation for managers to have.
mm,
Rather than saying you're late, it is today. I understand that the trains were late, and that's fine. It would be really great if we have a phone call because your teammates, that's in
mm.
line with our values. We couldn't put them on breaks, etc. And then
Yeah.
you just incorporate it into your culture where we need everyone. You need your
Mm.
kitchen hands, you need your managers, you need your frontline staff, and it strengthens your values when everybody's talking about it and understands their impact.
Yes, yeah. And as I said, tying it back, it moves the conversation to, well, this is what I think about you, to
Yes.
it's the team, it's the organizer, it's the people that you need to be, well, that you will be working alongside and how it's impacting them.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is fantastic. And that runs through. Do you feel that people also now apply for roles when you're looking at the workforce of today, apply for roles and they're really looking about the culture, also what if we look at the club industry, how that club is connected to outside communities as well as the culture within the team. Do you think they see that as a value point?
I do. I
Mm,
think that the way they express that in an interview comes across in many different ways.
mm,
Some people have done a lot of research about the club and will say, "Oh, that's because I'm connected to this group with the club, etc." And
ah,
some people don't know,
mm,
and but you can tell when you're talking to them in regards to how much community work we do. It's a great segue into recruitment if they're nervous as well, because it
yes,
kind of opens up
yes.
a whole nother conversation.
Mm,
I think people do want that culture of respect where they can talk to you,
yeah.
where they can bring what their ideas, if there's any frustrations. I don't think that we didn't have it before. I just think people are more confident now into say, well, I don't like that. I don't like the way you spoke to me. That's
Mhm.
okay. But you
Mm,
need to communicate with it. What was it about that? And what do you need?
mm,
And also then empower your leaders, though, to
mm.
have those conversations back because it
Yes,
can be confronting if someone has different expectations. Again, the value set helps with that a lot.
it does. It does. And, it really is that your true north, isn't it? That you just keep coming back to it. And which makes it easier, I think, for managers, whether they've been doing in that role for a long time, or even those that are that first time manager, if they relate it back to the values, it reassures them this is just not me, it's the values, yeah, which is
That's right.
fantastic. Do you feel that it's become quite a competitive environment within the hospitality industry now to get the right people for the right roles?
I think the skill set, depending on what you're looking for, has been challenging
Mm,
even before COVID. After COVID, I think our biggest challenge is not just necessarily there's lots of good people coming through the doors.
mm,
Um, I'm finding a lot of people for us, we're a 24/7 club, don't want those overnight shifts as
mm,
well, and that's where a lot of the work is.
mm.
We still struggle a little bit with chefs. We do.
Right, yes, yeah.
We're quite lucky we don't do huge recruitment campaigns for your beverage and your gaming stuff. We do get them walking, but we are on the train line. We're quite lucky with
Yes.
things like that. We do offer all the facilities that make it a little bit easier. If you can't catch a train and you want to drive, we have the parking. We offer the training, things like that. So I think we're getting the people through the door. There are a little bit more issues these days with people still wanting to do the job, but being a little bit shyer, a
Yes.
little bit, it can be overwhelming on a busy night when there's lots of, but I think that's also comes down to the employer to make sure you have that support structure in place as well. And we've just had some fantastic people come through the doors though.
Yes, yeah. It is this word that we hear a lot now in the workplace is staff are anxious. We all get nervous. And I suppose it was the word that I would have used in my day, starting a job or even now, when you're meeting a new client or you're walking onto the stage, you get that nervous tummy, oh goodness me, but this anxiousness for some, I feel, are they does it inhibit them from finding that this could be the right role for them?
I think that's a really good question. I think that we've found, and again, I'm not sure what everyone else has, that it can limit some people where they get that feeling and it may stop them from pushing through. Now, obviously, everybody, and I'm not a doctor, there's different levels
Yes.
of being anxious and, to the point where somebody can have an anxiety attack. We choose to concentrate on, like later on, we'll talk a little bit about what we've done in the DV space, but it does go hand in hand with mental health. Trying to break down the stigma. We don't judge someone that says, I'm feeling nervous or I'm a little bit anxious. That's okay. Generally, we say, well, that's great. That's a sign that you want to work here. If you're anxious in an interview or you've got nerves, you actually want this. So we're on the right track already. If you're nervous because it's a busy night, you might want to be performing well. Let's have that chat. How do we support you? I also think that we've just taught our children now that it's okay to have the conversation. I don't think it wasn't there. I just think that it's not the amount of people now compared to 10 years ago that will come on a door and say, my mental health. And I think I wouldn't have said that before.
No.
But that doesn't make it right or wrong.
No.
It just means that we need to create that safe space here where people go, okay, you're having a hard day, but I still want to work with you because we want to be able to push through this and we still value you as an employee and we need to be able to work with this.
Yes.
It's worked in most cases, but yes, I've had people that they can't do shift work and it's not for them. But we try and have nice conversations around that because we're not here to deflate somebody and they usually come to that themselves.
Yes.
And we'll work with them when we can.
And I think that's the thing is having those conversations, isn't it? I mean, because people don't know what shift work's like and you are on your feet for ages and you're having to put up with the public that have got all sorts of attitude when they come through the door. You think, oh, great, I thought I was going to have a good day. So it's how we handle them. But, I think having those open conversations with them like you and your team do makes a difference because it could really give somebody that little bit of, bit of a push from the back going, you know what, I can do this, but I know I can because I've got the support of the team. So it's been in that right place and having those conversations and listening and actually taking up on the offer when somebody says, come and have a conversation with me or let me know how you're feeling. I think that's, I think sometimes it's just too many perhaps go back and go, oh, this is not for me. And they write the text off. They don't even ring. You don't even get a chance to talk to them. And that's where it's a shame.
It is. It is a shame. We try and make sure that we have that conversation in training. I haven't done it for a little bit actually. But we introduce emotional intelligence where somebody's having a go at you, not necessarily have you done something to deserve that or done anything wrong. In saying that, if you get an order wrong, we don't condone someone yelling at you either.
No.
But a lot of the times you don't need to actually take it on. Our job is just to either pacify them or call a manager, depending on the level that they are. But then we train in conflict resolution, as you know. We've used we've a few staff gone through your training as well, to make sure that they are empowered, but also not wanting to sound like Taylor Swift, but shake it off.
Yes.
Someone having a go at you doesn't make you bad. It's more says about them. If they can't express themselves and that's how they have to be, that's more about them than you. But if it has affected you, come to us. That's our job as well. And we'll take
Yes.
some time out to chat to you.
Which is really key. We've talked about your journey and recruitment here in the hospitality industry at the moment, and and it will certainly continue to grow because people will always want to go out and eat or dine or just connect with others. We know that, as wonderful as AI and robots are, it's not that human touch, and that's what we're looking for in those authentic conversations and connections, no matter how old or young you are. But you touched on the work that you do out there in the community, so I would like to just have a conversation about that because it's key not only for your teammates, but those that are members and guests, and you've got tens of thousands of members there at Reezy, but also the broader community that see you as a place to connect, but also a place to go to be heard. So you're deeply involved in the community work, particularly with Biyani House. Can you tell us about that partnership between Revesby Workers and Biyani House, and how did it come to life? So I suppose, what is Biyani House for our listeners, and how did it come to life?
Okay, so you'll have to stop me if I go on too much because you know that I'm passionate about
And
this.
and what your role is with them as well. Yes.
Okay,
Mm.
so the right in the beginning, and I believe it was 2018, I wasn't as heavily involved because that was at a board level, where I believe WCS approached, who have quite a few partnerships with shelters. Revesby, to see in this area, in this LGA, we unfortunately don't have great stats when it comes to domestic violence, what we could do. So just the high level dot points, they formed a steering committee. That's when I had heard of it and thought, this is exactly growing up at Revesby, being involved, what I want to do. Obviously, I'd approached Scott Bennett, had just started then, this is something that I'd like to do, definitely. Moving forward, Revesby, then we formed that steering committee knowing that we would like to open a shelter, come to Revesby, with the board driving this. They then offered a property at $1 a year for 20 years.
Wow.
So
God.
Without the help, and it's not just Revesby, we've got, and I'm being put on the spot, so I'm going to forget all the clubs. So in case I lose one, I'm not going to say all the names, but we have 5 clubs that constantly put in through club grants to help. It's very expensive. I don't think people realize how expensive it is to run a shelter, because we're paying staff and it's intensive therapy we give women. So that we house women and children that need to get out of serious situations that don't have anywhere else to go. So they'll come into their house, and for 3 months we will give them intense therapy, legal access to health as well, and then we help with the pathway to set up more long-term housing. So there's a lot of people involved with that as well. On that note, well, it's all positive and we're trying to do as much as we can. For every 2 we house, there's 7 that we turn away. That's the need that was identified, and why we chose this pathway. There's many pathways to help, and as you'll see, there's and you'd be working with quite a few. I just seen you just did a post on Relove. There is so many different ways for people to help. We just thought we need a shelter. We didn't have one in the Canterbury Bankstown. I've been fortunate to not only be on the board, but represent our wonderful club. And I'd like to say even our industry, because without the help of the clubs that we've got, as much as Revesby's done a lot, we just can't run, we can't operate. So that's the power of this industry.
And I think people don't realise how much the clubs do above and beyond what they have to do, that the government requests them to do, and particularly when it's your local community, raising funds and for larger national charities, etc., is wonderful, and organisations, but when it comes to the heart of your community. And for my listeners, Revesby is a very high multicultural area, and not far from Sydney, about 15-20 minutes by train on the Macarthur fast line. You can get in there really quick, but it is an area where it is high density living as well. Revesby Workers Club was actually a turkey farm before it was built, so it's gone from this farming into this very high residential and high multicultural, where people Yeah, it's about getting on, but with domestic violence, it doesn't matter what culture it is there and it needs to be addressed. So doing that with Biyani House, can you tell us a little bit more? Because I know this week's podcast, as you correctly said, was with Michael Johnson
Yeah.
from Relove, and just hearing about what they do, which, working with hotels such as the Westin is just absolutely fantastic. But how did sitting there and going, okay, we're going to build this shelter. How do you get that word out? Now, I know everything's confidential, but, and I've, God forbid, I haven't had to use one, but how do you let people know where they are when they need that help?
Okay. So that's, and again, for the listeners, I am not an expert, just to
Mm,
make sure. Um, Basically, it is your community.
mm,
Everything is your community. They're all referral services. We still highly advertise Biyani House. Obviously, we never put an address with it
mm.
and the contacts there. But we get referred. We've got Women's Health, Bankstown, all the community groups, so many that I couldn't even list. Like I'm working with the Zonta group, which is
Yes.
another female organization. Like there is just so many, and that is how it works. It is
Mm,
really, you know that saying when you have a child, it takes a village?
mm.
This is how it works. So
Yeah.
you get a referral from a referral. Somebody says, you really need to speak to this person. They go, you should go to Biyani House. They call, we go, we're full. So we keep calling
Mm,
or we do outreach work. That's the other thing we've expanded on. And we couldn't do without the club's help because it costs money, is
mm.
that we do outreach work. So for people we can't get into shelter or may not need to go to shelter, might need that little bit of help connecting to the right, like link to
Right.
home,
Yes.
um, any service they might need, counselling. They may even just need that helping hand when they go to Centrelink, or they may not be able to access things that everyone else can. How do we find a grant? Or honestly, there is that many different. It
Yeah.
blew my mind when I
Mm.
started to do this. It's
Yes.
the in-depth scenarios you get, but without everyone feeling also overwhelmed. You're talking about
Mm.
community. It can be as small as this. We were talking about this in the DV. We have the Clubs for Community DV committee, and people like it can be overwhelming. And we're very fortunate here at Revesby to have the help of the clubs to be able to have a shelter.
Mm.
But it can be absolutely anything. Through our contact of a shelter in winter, a mother of four who was in the middle of trying to move out and was getting the support, but you have to do a safety plan,
Mm.
rang up and said, we can't move just yet, but we are freezing. My kids, we have no access to the blankets. It was very hard. That same afternoon, we put a call out to our staff and we had what I'm guessing, and this is a rough count, 10 times more than what we needed for this family within 2 days.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
we got the delivery. We now need to find storage for how generous our staff was, because we just said, and it was news, how people had gone to it was, and I've got goosebumps now.
Mm.
That's the stuff we can do. You just don't,
Yes.
if you just don't turn a blind eye. You
Mm.
don't have to have a house
Mm.
or $5 million to put a whole, you could do stuff like that every day.
Yes. Yeah.
And it is really happening. I know it's hard for people, but it is really happening.
Mm. And I think as you've just said there, some people, Sharon, they go, well, I don't know how to get involved, oh, I'm happy to give money or what do you want? But actually doing that call out, we need blankets or we need this or we need toys or something. And people go, oh, I can do that. That is something I can action myself. I can go home, go to the shop and I can purchase that and I can give it knowing that it's actually going to get to the person who needs it. I think that's probably another thing. Sometimes it's perhaps puts that barrier, people think, well, is it actually getting to that person? You know,
Oh,
and
we,
that's what's
we
really
get
important, isn't it?
absolutely, we get those questions. And
Mm,
on the reverse of that, people are so generous. We have to actually nicely ask for nothing
right.
sometimes
Yeah.
because we have no storage. So
Mm,
when I get asked that, the best thing you can ever do in a business, if you really want to do something, is do a voucher drive. And why I say voucher is that someone may not have a lot of money and
mm,
they might get a $10 voucher, but it empowers the women and children to make their own choices
mm,
rather than, oh, you don't have a backpack, I'm going to buy your 8-year-old a unicorn
mm.
pink. and she's into soccer.
Yeah.
Now, no one's ungrateful, so of course we don't knock it back. But when you give that parent to go to Kmart or Big W and say, you need this new jacket and we're going to get it, it changes, they're
Mm.
worth it. And we're
Yes.
telling them they're worth it by
Mm.
saying the community gave this to you.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you get what you need.
Mm.
And we do drives. Biyani does drives on the gift cards. That is probably one of the things, if anybody was to take anything out, that is such a big help
Mm.
for women and children in shelters, because we can easily distribute. It's not, you don't need to
Yes.
find storage, and it gets to them straight away. I can vouch that Biyani House passes it on.
Mm.
And I would very much say that the other shelters that we're aligned with are the same.
Mm. And it's an opportunity for the parent and the child to actually go shopping and select something for themselves, which perhaps they haven't been able to do even when they were a family unit. They didn't have that opportunity where they could
That's
do
right.
that. Because perhaps they're under control or whatever the situation was. But it's about them buying something for themselves or being able to buy something for their children. Yeah.
And making their own choices.
Yes.
And yeah, it's
Mhm.
wonderful.
So where do you go to from here? You've got Biyani House. You've shared with us that first impact. Obviously, domestic violence is not going away. It's getting bigger and bigger. How do are there more opportunities for shelters to open? Are there, where do you see, and I'm putting you on the spot here, where do
Yeah.
you see it going in the future? You've got this small space at the moment, well, this shelter, which is fantastic, but as you said, you're turning away people. What do you see the future being?
I think there's a few streams, and I don't want to be too la la la, because obviously you can keep going. Uh,
Mm,
there's lots of things we'd like to do. The board discuss at a strategic level all the time.
mm,
We believe that probably the most impact we can have, which is why Revesby Workers actually does Purple Fridays,
right.
um, is the education piece. If
Mm,
if everyone just believed in respectful relationships, we can pretty much eradicate domestic violence
mm,
overnight. So as complex as this topic is and hard for people to talk about, it's respectful relationships.
yes.
That's what we're talking about,
Mm,
and saying no to violence in
mm,
every form there is.
yeah.
Whether it's coercive control, whether it's what people naturally think of, whether it's sexual assault
Mm,
or physical, it's everyone deserves to feel safe,
yes. Yeah.
especially in their own home, and every child deserves that. So I think we've got a great alignment with WCS, where we do a walk the talk program, where
Hmm.
that goes into schools, and we've had a huge, I say I haven't had anything to do with it, so take me out of it. I have heard, because I would love to claim it, but I can't, that the greatest impact there, and again, I don't want to get emotional, is the young males
Yeah.
that want to get involved.
Mm,
It's always been a bit taboo. We talk about the males. They're our greatest they're the people that are helping us. I
yes.
mean, I have a gorgeous CEO that gets out there and says we need to do more.
Mm,
We just need them to speak up.
yes.
We've got the good ones. We just need them to keep talking.
Mm,
Our staff, we haven't had any pushback in wearing Purple Friday. That's it. And if they forget, oh, Sharyn, I forgot, can I wear my purple shirt? And this is our gorgeous males doing that,
yes.
just along with our females. And it tells people that aren't ready to tell their story that when you have a community behind you. There's
Yes.
nothing wrong with you. We're
Mhm.
here and we're ready to listen.
Yeah.
Uh, that's that's powerful in itself.
Mm, it
Um,
definitely is. Yeah.
and then we want to expand the outreach work as well, because
Mm,
the shelter's not for everyone.
yes.
And
Mm,
if the more education we get, people can identify and comfortable to say in an early stage, we
mm,
can use the outreach.
yes.
So I think there's lots of things that we can do. It can be overwhelming for business to think, what can we do?
Mm,
But it doesn't have to be big. If you can't do wearing purple shirts, it can be a training session, having the information, putting out there 1-800 respect,
mm,
or having a DV action plan. So someone experienced it can talk to management or the HR team.
mm.
I think there's just so much we could do, and I should stop talking. But yes, there's lots we can do.
There is, and as you said, it's from the grassroots. It's for the community, but it's also for your team members there
For our
as well.
staff.
Yeah, for your staff because they are a massive cross of the population. Because how many staff have you got there at Revesby?
Well, I didn't check that one up. I think we're at about 345, but
Yeah.
don't quote me.
So that's a lot of people, and there would be in that mix somebody or a number of people that domestic violence would be impacting on them. So it's for the team as well. And you're right, we need men our allies, and it's for them to support the cause as wearing the purple shirt, but also to stop those conversations and be brave, whether it's in the locker room or the staff room or walking down the street or at the pub going, hey, that's not on. That's not
It
appropriate.
stops someone at casual sexism. It's
Yes.
not okay.
Mm,
If we're joining a meeting, if a female's joining a meeting and you wouldn't say it about a male, then don't say it about a female. We're
yes.
lucky we work here, we have strong policies, and not saying it never goes on, but we don't face that a lot.
Yes.
But that kind of stuff goes a long way.
It does. It does. And it's everybody working together, which is key.
Absolutely.
I have loved our conversation, and I know we could go into 100 different streams,
No.
but just I really have enjoyed you being able to share your journey, but also the recruitment and your connection with Biyani House and the broader community in how we, as an industry, the registered club industry, helps, but also it's every single individual within those clubs and how they choose to show up. Just one last thing to finish, and I'm just going to pop this question out there. What would be one tip for a person who's listening to this, or either them directly, or perhaps have a family or a friend in thinking, why would I want to go into the club industry for a job?
Oh, that's easy for me. Why wouldn't you? We are a great industry with great people. We have so many career options that people don't even realize that we don't outsource. You just need to have a look at what the clubs are actually doing.
Yes.
If you have kids that go to sporting, how are those fields getting maintained?
Mm.
Hospitals are getting. These are your community clubs. We believe in the community. We give back to the community. Why would you not want to be part of that?
Yeah.
Even for a small part of your career, if you want to be, say you're starting to be a doctor or go into policing, we've got lots that go to police or the army. They have a great 4 or 5 years here. We clap them at the door and say, don't forget about us. You're going to do great. And they learn all their life skills here. It's a win-win for everybody. So I just ask, why wouldn't you want to be? It's a great industry. And look at all the amazing work all these clubs are doing. I mean,
Yes.
I'm passionate about Revesby, but all the clubs are amazing.
They are. They are. Whether it's a small rural little club that could even be a small little bolo, or the larger venues, you offer so much variety to team members who wish to work there. And you're right. It's marketing, it's sales. There's so much that people. It's more than just about pouring a beer, but of course what they're doing with the community. Thank you so much, Sharyn, for joining me today. And everybody, there will be lots of links in the show notes about Biyani House, but also about Revesby Workers. And by all means, next time you go there, drop in for a coffee or a coldie or whatever makes you happy. Take care.
Thanks, Michelle.